Gene, we have a few questions here for you. And I'll start out with what are your feelings about being inducted into the Traditional Bowhunters Hall of Fame?
You know, when I guess it was Russell who called me up and said I'd been nominated. Was it Russell?
Russell. Yeah.
And to be honest, the first word that came into my mind was me. You know, and I mean, it's not like, and I can probably speak for the others. We didn't start out to be anybody special. We just did what we loved to be doing.
Sure.
And this whole the whole what's not regime isn't the right word for it, but this traditional bow hunting thing, it's a culture. It is. Matter of fact, it's a path. It's a choice. It's not just it's not a hobby. It's not a
So beyond the sport.
yeah, it's a passion. It's a part of our being. It's a part of our soul. And it's like I thought of another example just a minute ago, but it's to the point where it just happens, and it's like comparing. I can't give you a good analogy. Hunting versus shooting, or there's so many guys that they don't understand. Trad bow hunters are different. I don't mean strange different. I just mean different.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of fact that years ago, I wrote an article called the stick shift syndrome. And I was talking to TJ about this the other day. There's a lot of guys, most people, I don't mean when I say guys,
people,
but most people are driving automatic transmissions, but there's a slice of the pie there that want to stick shift. They want to push it. They want, I'd rather push a clutch in and
make those decisions for themselves.
Yes, exactly. And that's the same way it is with most bow hunters are shooting compound bows. But then there's a group here that there was one period. Hey, listen, when bow hunting pioneers back in the early days, 100 years ago or whatever you want to call it, that era right there, we're all traditional bow hunters. Everybody, that's all there was, And there's a lot of people out there that shoot compounds, and they're hunting for the right reasons. I can say a very high percentage of anybody in PBS is hunting for the right reasons. But there's a lot of guys on TV that they're just, they're hunting for the wrong reasons.
Sure. Yeah.
Or bow hunting for the wrong reasons. And as a pastime, there's a lot of people just don't quite understand. Matter of fact, a lot of spouses, I talked to somebody about this. I had a buddy of mine call not too long ago, and we were talking, and he's a stick bow guy. And he said, last November, it was a Saturday, had a day off, and it was, first week in November. And he says, I didn't go out. And he says, my wife said to me, how come you're not hunting this morning? And he says, both of its tree stands I want to sit in, the wind is not right. And his wife said, why don't you turn around and face the other direction? Thank God bless her, she just didn't quite get it, Just turn around and face the other way, Anyway, but that's a true story that happened to a buddy of mine. But
yeah.
In any event, it's, where were we on your
basically we're talking about your feelings about being inducted. And I guess I'll follow that up. We're a new organization and we want to do things right. We want to capture our history and, like we just discussed, our great culture, lifestyle. So what insights do you have on preserving our rich traditional bow hunting heritage? Are there some things that we could do beyond the induction, the website? What do you?
Well, here again, you get the there's an element of high tech involved in that. With social media, for one thing. I mean, a lot of people, and I'm one of them, but you know, I don't, I'm on Facebook once in a while, but my daughter kind of, hey, you need to check this out, whatever.
She keeps you up to date.
Yeah, she keeps me up to date. But the social media thing, there's a lot of people, um, DVDs, for instance, you know, I mean, we made a bunch of DVDs and now, I mean, they're almost worthless, you know, because nobody, you buy if you want to see a DVD, you got to buy an old,
Right.
and you were talking about, I interrupted when we were talking to Barry there.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of VHS tapes with Schafer killing that pink buffalo, and
Oh yeah, those would be highly valuable.
very, very, very valuable.
They could be digitized.
Yeah,
To
what you would have been words and
digitized.
But anyway, I have a bunch of old footage of Barry and I on hunts and shooting stuff, and just, I mean, hours and hours of it, you know, on VHS tapes, and then we went to they went to the cassettes, and I got a bunch of that we took a lot of our footage with those little mini cassettes, you know, and I got a bunch on that, and they need to be transposed digitally, you know, where people can look at them and see this is the way it was, you know, and again, it all gets back to we didn't do this on purpose. It's just that's the way we did things.
Yeah, it was in your bloodstream.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Yeah, for sure. So Larry brought up, put a lot of emphasis on the importance in bringing youth into having opportunities with traditional bow hunting. Do you think that there might be some avenues there that they haven't quite figured it out or cultivated?
You can look at that a couple different ways. One way is to take a kid from page one and, you know, teach him about this is a difference between compound bows and traditional bows. And then there's another way, and this is easier, but I don't like to do it this way, is to, if I'm going to take a kid out in the woods and teach him about traditional bow hunting, I would rather that he comes to me, and I would rather he buys his own equipment first. I mean, I'm taking for granted he has a compound bow.
Sure.
But rather than to come to me and say, hey, show me what to do, I would rather him go out, and I'm not going to suggest he starts off with a stick bow, but that's not a bad idea.
Right.
You know, that's the way most guys did, except for the old timers. But when you have I guess what I'm saying is, if a kid comes up to me and he doesn't even own a bow and arrow and he wants to learn about bow hunting, that's fine, but it's harder. I would rather see the guy, I'm going to spend some money, and it sometimes a waste of money, but I'd rather see a guy say, hey, here's what I got. Can you show me what I need? You know, or if I'm using now, what's better about a trad bow, or what's different about it. It's not that they're better, you know, and all that sort of thing, but it's not. And it gets back to the old saying, it's not how far away we can hit them, it's how close we can get. I want to get inside the 20-yard line. You know, I want to look them in the eyes. You know, I want to feel that relationship, mystery. You know, these guys there's a lot of bow hunters nowadays. I mean, the younger guys, all they know is what they see on TV or on the screen on social media, you know, and they're seeing guys, I got them at 120 yards, you know, and that sort of thing, or I can hit them and look at 80 yards or whatever. And it's just, like I said, it's how close you can get, not how far away you can hit them. And that whole path, or that whole insight is just, it's a different world, you know.
So your progression as a mentor, bow hunters. How do you think that's changed? It's probably gone through quite a transition. You probably don't mentor new traditional bow hunters now like you might have 30 years ago.
No, there was a point when, I mean, if you shot a stick bow, you were different.
Yeah.
And you actually still are, to be honest with you, but there's guys that, and I hate to put it like this, but there's guys with compounds that, uh, and going back to they only see what they have on TV or what they only learn what they see on TV.
Sure.
The guys go, hey, that guy looks like he's having more fun than I am, and it's all it's personal satisfaction and making a connection and pulling it together. I don't know. It's just I did maybe I'm gonna be a little bit off the program here, but I remember 25 years ago, PBS. I stood up there and I talked about the military, the vets.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked, I don't know how long it was, but I talked about the guys in the audience that, I didn't make them, but I had them stand up.
I remember that.
If you were a vet. And I won't mention any names, but I had at least two, probably more guys, approach me after that and say that when I got home, nobody's ever thanked me, number one. And that was 25 years ago. It was the first banquet right after 9/11, right? And I had guys approach me and said, nobody's ever thanked me for coming back from the war. Matter of fact, one guy said, I even got spit on. And he says it was all I could do to, I come home and fake Americans spit on me, and I mean, that's really sad, but I mean, there's guys in the PBS right at that room. I'm not going to ask them to raise their hands or make them stand up or have them stand up or anything like that. But there's guys in this hotel right now that watch their buddies die.
Sure.
They watch their companions, close friends, relatives pay the ultimate price. They've been spit on. They've been treated like, heroes, and they've been treated like dirt. Yeah. And it's just, a lot of people can't fathom that, I mean, they can't feel it, but, there's bow hunting for the right reasons. I getting away from the veteran thing. We all know why we hunt, but it's really hard to put it into words.
Yeah.
And it's a depth of passion rather than
it is.
I don't like to hunt with a bow. I love to hunt with a bow, And like I said, it's just different degrees of relativity, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway,
so what do you think the overall future of traditional bow hunting?
I think it's pretty darn good, to be honest.
Well, that's good to hear.
I think it's there's enough guys out there. Here's another good example. I moved to Hamilton, Montana in 1971. Dick Robertson was already there. He had just graduated high school. Jason Vicky.
Eventually Carter.
Yeah. Anyway, I moved to Hamilton, Montana. Dick was the only guy I knew that shot a bow.
Yeah.
And this was, I guess it must have been before compounds coming. It was in the early 70s.
In that transition.
Transition period.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, here's another thing too, and I find this quite interesting. One of my passions that I can't really do much anymore is trout fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm an 81-year-old guy going on 82, and if I walk out into a riffle, I feel like an accident waiting to happen. Standing in moving water. I was always wanting to wade, guys.
Sure.
And I'd wear blue jeans and get my drawers wet and get my ass in my shirt and all that. I didn't even have waders. I had blue jeans. Anyway, but when I started fishing, and this is in the Bitterroot now, let me back up. Right now, I got a tree stand. I got a couple of them actually down on the Bitterroot River. And I can be sitting in those tree stands, and there's a rat come down a Bitterroot every 100, 150 yards. I mean, the average trout sees 100 flies go over top of him. Matter of fact, I had a neighbor of mine had a friend from back east, and he went down and he said, I took whatever his name was, his cousin down the Bitterroot. He says, man, I couldn't believe how many fish. We caught some really nice trout. And I said, what were you using? He says, I had a Mexican, he had a Panther Martin. And I said, the reason, when trout get about that big, how many calories are in a gnat? They don't eat, they want to minnow.
Calories.
And those trout had never seen a minnow of a lure. They never saw it. It's all fly fishing. And anyway, they slaughtered them, But now, there was a point in the 70s, I would go down there. Nobody fly fished except me and Dick Robertson. And at some of those stretches, I mean, I could stand at a hole for hours and nobody ever pulled by, And matter of fact, I went, actually, I was a meat eater. As a matter of fact, I had a hat that said Gill Crusher on there, and I would catch the biggest trout, and I was pretty good at it, man. I was catching these big trout, and I'd hang them on. I met two times, very memorial or memory wise. They were so big. The bigger the fish, the more I ate it. I'd keep it. Rather than take it back, I'd crush it, hang it on my belt. I remember one time, and I used to fish at night. The biggest browns they rented a night fishing, right? And it was in August, and I would go down, usually on a weekend. I go down like 10 o'clock at night and fish till like midnight or 1 o'clock. Down off like Corvallis Woodside Bridge. And I just park the car and I go to one big hole. And matter of fact, at that time I was using bass plugs, floating minnow, with a color at each end, And I'd pick out one big hole after dark, go up there, and man, I caught some big brown, And anyway, I caught this big brown, and I killed him, put him on. I had a rope. I killed him, put him on a rope, and carried him. He wouldn't fit in the group, and I carried him on my belt, and he was hung down near my ankle, past my knee. Let's put it that way. So anyway, I'm walking out, and this car, I had my car parked up on the road, and I see this pair of headlights come back, and he hit the brakes and backed up, and then turned around, and here was the sheriff or deputy. Wasn't Jim Dye or Jim Chin, but anyway, one of the deputies stopped, and I walked up there, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm fishing." And he says, "That's against the law, ain't it?" And I said, "No." And he says, "You sure?" And I said, "Yeah, they changed it last year.
So you could nighttime.
If there was, when I first moved to Montana, you couldn't fish in the dark. Now it's 24 hours." And he's writing all this down, and he checked my license and all that. Everything was good. And he said, "You didn't catch anything, did you?" And I said, "Yeah, I got this one here." And this trout's hanging on my belt down past my knee. And he went, "Holy smoke!" And he went, he shined a light on it, on my lure, and he wrote this down. All down. And he says, "I'm going to have to follow up on this." And I said, go for it, because he still didn't believe me. It's at night. So anyway, that was a Saturday. Monday morning, I go in the office, and I was a chiropractor, and I had this guy laying on a table, and he said, "Boy, they're talking about you down at a coffee shop this morning." And I says, "Me?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "What about?" And he says, "So-and-so said the sheriff caught you down the Woodside Bridge with a whole stringer full of big brown trout." And a whole stringer full of them, Anyway, so that's how legends are made right there.
Yeah.
In any event, as time goes on and you get more guys interested in, I think I'd like to try that.
Sure.
And they really, they have to almost, I guess what I'm trying to say here is there's a percentage of them are going to try it and say,
not for me.
Not for me.
Yeah.
And then another very decent percentage that, oh, this feels more like it should be.
Right.
You know, this is a part of me that I need a page I need to turn the chapter, you know. So, any event.
No, that's good. So we've got quite a contingent of people with Montana connections, whether born, raised there, like you got to spent quite a bit of time there. And as you know, we're having two legacy inductees, which we talked about, Paul Schafer and Jack Whitney. And, are there some other Montanans that you knew that you guys knew that being overlooked?
Fred and Herman Haas. Was it HASS or HAAS? HASS. Yeah. No, they're out of Glendive, and they hunt Bob Savage too.
Oh, Bob.
Oh yeah, Bob Savage. We'll get to him in a minute. But Fred and Herman was his dad, and Barry and I used to hunt over along the Yellowstone. We hunt whitetails over there along the Yellowstone. We ran into Fred and Herman. Herman, no, he died just a year or so later. But then Fred, actually, he's passed now too. But we spent quite a bit of time over there on the Yellowstone and good guys, typical guys. Again, he made a recurve. Fred made recurve. Yeah. He got, I can't remember the guy's name. He ordered one. I was out of Minnesota. If it was multiple choice, I'd get it. But you get to a memory. I can think, what's that guy's name, or who was that guy? And if it's multiple choice, I'd nail it. But Ralph, it just And anyway, but Herman and Fred Haas were old timers. Mm-hmm. Bob Savage was probably the first guy. I remember that. Jack Whitney taught Bob Savage how to make bows.
Okay.
And Bob Savage, actually, I tried to talk him into coming to this deal here, but he doesn't go anywhere, right. You know, and he's a wealth of information. He has handwritten letters from some of the old pioneers. He would write letters to, the old timers, back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, sure. That era back in there. And he saves everything down. And I remember when I first met Bob, I can't remember the question came up, and I said, how many elk were killed with a bow and arrow? And I think it was 1976 or 5 or something like that. And Bob said, 16. And he knew exactly how many elk were killed in the state of Montana in that year, and it wasn't very many of them, but Bob has, Jack Whitney taught Bob how to make bows. Bob actually taught Jake how to make bows. Okay. And passed it on.
So there wasn't a Whitney Schafer connection necessarily. He was the guy in between.
Yeah. And to this day, Bob, he's old. He's 80. I think he's 83 or something like that now. And he's in pretty decent health. And he gets out, but I don't think he gets out as much as he used to. Mm-hmm. But he's been there, done that. Let's put it that way, And he and I were the ones that actually got together and, hey, this state needs an organization, okay. And it was Jerry Karski, Bob Savage, me, a guy named Ed Mills from, I think he moved away somewhere. He might be gone now for a while now. Jerry Karski, and Pat Wolf from Indiana, who moved back to Indiana. But there was like 5 or 6 of us. Oh, and there was a preacher. I can't remember his name. He moved to Idaho. But anyway, like 6 of us met in Missoula and said, hey, we need to start a state organization. And
was that the Montana Bowhunter?
Montana Bowhunter. And in that era, the compound had.
Sure. Everything was traditional.
Yeah, everything was traditional. But in any event, I watched Montana just grow and grow and grow, as far as hunter numbers and deer numbers and all that sort of thing. But it got to a point where, like I said, getting back to the fishing in the Bitterroot. I mean, now it's just every 100 yards there's a boat goes by, and there's guys. I don't have a problem. I only actually right now I have 2 farms in the Bitterroot that I hunt. And they're about 4 miles apart, and both of them are, they're very limited access, but they're not. I mean, I don't have sole permission on there, and because it's in the Bitterroot, the elks, it's an archery only area, has been for many years. That was one of the first things that we got when we put the Montana bow hunters together, is to go to Helena and fight for. We want special seasons, or we like special, we want them, but we, and not that we need them, but it'd be really nice, neat to have archery only areas and archery only seasons, and that's just the way it was.
Was that like in the 1970s?
Now, it'd be in the 60s,
60s, late
early
60s.
70s.
Okay.
It actually started. I moved there in '71, and there wasn't any Montana bow hunters, but there were people hunting with bows.
Sure.
And it was just like a week or 10 days. I remember Scott Kelzer tells us about that. I can't remember what year it was. There, one year that the Montana Fish and Game just forgot to give us an archery season. They didn't set aside. They had 10 days or something like that. We forgot about that. All the maps and the syllabus come out, and there was no archery, no bow season this year. They forgot. Oh, we forgot. Sorry. That sort of thing. But I think it's going in the right direction, and I like to see. I really enjoy seeing people hunting for the right reason.
Yeah, for sure.
Not that ours is better than theirs, but it's like I said, we're different. We're not strange, but we're different. And there's more. Again, it gets back to personal satisfaction. So,
yeah. In Oregon, we now have a number of traditional seasons where you have to use a traditional bow.
Oh, is it really?
We have 5 or maybe six different hunts. And that's something that I looking into the future, I think we've got an avenue there from a management perspective, because we're obviously limited range. We're going to not have as much of an impact on the resource.
Oregon and Washington have been very, very important states in bow hunting. I mean, in the history of bow hunting, they had pretty strong people, right?
We've always had a push towards a lot of input politically, whether it be the legislature or the Fish and Wildlife Commission. And I think that's starting to pay dividends now.
Oh, yeah.
But I also think that it's going to be attractive to conventional bow hunters looking to the future.
Yeah.
Because some of the season opportunities are unique and better than general archery hunters. It just feels to me like Montana would be another state that would really be ripe for that.
Yeah, I think, and I don't know why. Like I say, in history, it's been a few Western states and a few, especially Michigan and that part of the country.
Yeah, Wisconsin,
Michigan. There seem to be a lot of in Pennsylvania, New York,
New
York, for a little bit.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of people percentage-wise that they're just trying it out. It's pretty neat. So.
Yeah. Well, Gene, this is quite an honor to be able to be involved in inducting you.
Well, I appreciate it. It means a whole lot to me. I know it means a lot to my family, all my kids.
It's just fantastic your family's here and various families. Yeah. Thank you very much.
All right. My pleasure. Oh, let me add this, and I'm going to say this to the guys, not traditional as much as the PBS.
Right.
And first of all, I want to publicly or whatever thank PBS for hosting our organization.
That's fantastic.
All right. But there's guys, I lost what I was,
what was it? Well, you want to thank PBS.
Yeah.
And there's,
oh man. That's the military.
The guys out there.
That's the military.
Yeah, scary.
Oh, I know what it was. I think you'll notice, or these guys, if they notice, shaking hands with a PBS member, is, their handshake is fun
Yeah,
and their hugs are genuine. And it's not, you go to, and they give you the right a dead fish type of thing, But these a handshake from a PBS, you start notice that because I started noticing years ago.
Yeah.
And PBS guys, their handshake is meaningful, and their hugs are real. Yeah. Not have a good day.
Exactly.
Anyway,
good point.
Oh,
thank you, Gene. Also, we do need to follow up with something more in depth on certain subject matters like Schafer and Whitney.
I hunted. I did hunt with Schafer a couple of times. I hunted sheep with him in Northwest Territories, and went up there, and he got there early and killed a big ram before I got there. And then I was supposed to have a regular guy, take me. Well, and the guy said, Paul's killed out, he can, you want to, he got a grand slam. Oh yeah. But anyways, he took me out, and if luck would have it, I don't know if you call it good luck or bad luck, but I was there for almost 3 weeks, 2+ weeks. And we were on that hunt for 10 days, I think it was. And it rained, and it was so foggy. We laid in a tent. You couldn't see 40 yards, I mean, how you have sheep like that. But we had 3 good days, and I had 3 stalks on nice doll rams that just didn't close the deal. But I remember two pretty impressive things I saw. I was stalking these sheep, and Paul said, I'm going to go around. If they were across this draw, and we got in a saddle, and Paul said, I'm going to drop down and circle way around and come up behind those sheep and try them. If they see me, they're going to probably come through this saddle where I was hiding. And so I can't remember how much time, but he went way around, and all of a sudden I saw him, and he came out. Here's the sheep, and here's Paul way down here. And they saw him, and instead of running, they saw him too soon, and could have backed off. But anyway, they saw him, and they started running up the hill. And there was, I don't know how many rams. There's 6 or 8, maybe, I can't remember. But all these sheep were running up the hill, and here comes Sheep, and he was going to pass. He was running faster than a sheep, a four-legged animal. And I never seen a guy run like that in my life. I mean, he passed them and turned them, but they went down through this other saddle. But just the fact, if you could see that dude run after something else on 4 legs running away from him, and I think he could run one down if he wanted. Oh, probably so. Give him a spear. And another time, I remember we come back, and it was up on top, and we ran out of water. And I remember Chafes, and I remember looking down, and here is this, I mean, a boulder the size of a house was really small. It was that far down. And Chafes said, I suppose I've got to get down there and get us some water, So I think you can put 2 plastic, a big green bags, one inside the other one, and then a pack frame. And he went down over the hill, and I watched him till he went out of sight. And I thought, and I sit there, and all of a sudden, I didn't think he'd be back for a couple hours. And here he comes back out of there. It's about 40 gallons or whatever it was, about 30 gallons or whatever. No, ain't that, man. Yeah, and a bit for that on. Yeah, and I hopped up out of there, and I got, you've got to be kidding me. And then when they flew in to pick us up, it was pretty windy, and I remember the bush pilot's name. But anyway, come in, and he hit a big stone with the wheel when he landed, and the plane was rolling with the prop rolling like this, and it tipped up on its nose, and the hit the ground, and we're out in the middle of nowhere. And
That's a bad deal.
yeah, and of course, he had a pilot's license, and then the guy, I can't remember his name, on the plane. But anyway, and Schaaf went out. Schaaf went out there and grabbed that prop and he went like this, and he tried to. He tried to. I don't know if he ever did it or not, but he tried to straighten it out, right? And the guy said, "Okay, let's go," And I said, "Oh, go ahead. You can go. You don't have to me." And I thought that was a real stupid move because number one, Chase had his pilot's license, and that's so the other guy, but I didn't. And I don't know how they were communicating if that prop fell apart on them. Anyway, did he come back? And Chase should have stayed there, and I should have gone out, but I let him take the risk. But it worked out pretty good. But those are the days.
Yeah, for sure. Those are good stories.
Well, thanks for your time, Gene.
Yeah.
Okay.